Listening is an act of love. Thank you. You can help lift up the voices, stories, and challenges we share by making a contribution at ThisWayOut.org.
A sincere thank you to all of you who already support This Way Out. Your support matters.
I'm John Dyer V.
And I'm Sarah Montague.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the 3 weeks ending January 8th, 2022. Queer people in Senegal are exhaling now that a bill to increase penalties for same-gender sex has been rejected by lawmakers. The legislation would have even outlawed advocacy for LGBTQ rights. In fact, just being queer would have become a crime. Convictions for private, consensual, adult, same-gender sex in the West African nation are already punished by up to 5 years in prison and fines equivalent to thousands of U.S. dollars. The Bureau of the National Assembly decides whether or not a proposed law should be considered by the full unicameral legislature. Its members announced on January 4th that the existing legislation is sufficiently clear and the resultant penalties are severe. Human Rights Watch has been just one global advocacy group to report that arrests and prosecutions for so-called acts against nature in Senegal have risen sharply during the past decade. Researcher Deepika Nath noted people live in constant fear of losing their jobs, their families, their livelihoods, their freedom, and their very lives because they are seen as different. Lawmakers in neighboring Ghana are still considering their version of amplified anti-queer legislation.
The North African nation of Tunisia also punishes same-gender sex. Article 230 is a remnant of French colonial rule that punishes consensual adult gay or lesbian sex acts with up to 3 years in prison. 2 men convicted under the statute went to the nation's top court to challenge it in mid-December. Attorney Hessina Duraji called the convictions they are asking the court to overturn a cruel sentence that violates international standards. She charged that the men were found guilty because they refused to undergo anal exams to determine if they had engaged in homosexual acts. Such exams have been medically debunked and are defined by some human rights groups as torture. The 2 men spent more than a year in prison after their July 2020 convictions. Activists are applauding the courage it took to seek to have them overturned, even after they were released. Bada Babu of the LGBTQ rights group Damage points out that they've paid a price, since they now have no work and nowhere to live. His group maintains that more than 2,600 people have been jailed under Tunisia's Article 230 since 2008, and that some 150 people convicted of the crime are behind bars today.
The UK government made 2022 a truly new year for men convicted under the old laws criminalizing gay sex. Until now, only men convicted of 9 specific civil statutes were eligible for pardons. The criteria now include any repealed or abolished civilian or military offense imposed on someone purely for or due to consensual homosexual activity. The new plan expands the eligibility for pardons under Turing's law, enacted in 2017. It was named for World War II Nazi code-breaking hero Alan Turing. The father of the modern-day computer was convicted under laws against buggery and gross indecency in 1952, and committed suicide a few years after choosing chemical castration over a prison term. Turing's law granted pardons to surviving and deceased convicts, but did not cover related laws, such as solicitation of homosexual acts. Activity that's still illegal today is not included, and anyone else involved must have been at least 16 years of age. Pardoned men can also have their criminal records expunged.
Israel begins the new year with the opening of surrogacy services to LGBTQ people and single men. Out and proud Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz announced the extension of the services already available to heterosexual women. It came in response to a July 2021 Israeli Supreme Court ruling ordering the government to allow queer couples and single men to have a child via surrogacy. The High Court gave the government 6 months to implement its decision. Same-gender couples in Israel have more obstacles to overcome in trying to form families than heterosexual couples. There is no civil marriage. All marriages must be conducted by religious authorities, and no mainstream faith in Israel recognizes lesbian and gay couples. Until now, queer couples and single men had to hire expensive surrogates outside the country if they wanted to have a child that way. The new surrogacy policy takes effect on January 11th.
A family court in Taiwan has approved a gay man's adoption of his husband's child for the first time. One of the men adopted the baby girl before the couple married. On December 25th, a court in the southern city of Kaohsiung allowed the spouse to become the legal guardian of his husband's adopted daughter. The ruling was only made public late this week. Activists are hailing the decision, but sobered by the fact that it sets no legal precedent. They're calling on the government of the only Asian nation to open civil marriage to same-gender couples to give those couples the same adoption rights as heterosexuals. Jennifer Liu of the Taiwan Equality Campaign says that her group has heard from more than 500 queer families seeking to adopt a partner's children.
Queer activists in Cuba are hoping that the second time will be the charm in their efforts to secure marriage equality. The National Assembly unanimously approved a revised family code on December 21st that specifically defines civil marriage as the voluntary union of two people with legal aptitude for it in order to live life in common on the basis of affection and love. Equality advocates are applauding additional language that protects all expressions of family diversity and each person's right to build a family in coherence with the Constitution and its principles of equity, non-discrimination, and human dignity. The proposed new family code now enters a period of public consultation. Then there's another vote in Parliament, followed by voter approval in a public referendum, and final formal approval in the Assembly. Activists are hoping for a successful conclusion sometime this year. Cuban lawmakers included marriage equality in a new constitution in 2018. The politically powerful Roman Catholic Church of Cuba and other right-wing forces got that provision pulled before the voter referendum which subsequently approved the new constitution. It comes as no surprise that the Church continues to call on its followers to voice their support for the marriage of men and women.
Finally, one of India's most popular matchmaking websites is opening its services to marriage-seeking LGBTQ people. Shadi.com founder and CEO Anupam Mittal told Business Insider in late December, "We see ourselves as a platform for companionship and matchmaking. That could mean for different markets, different regions, different countries, different sexes." Mittal stressed that his company serves people interested in finding a compatible companion, not just casual dating. He said, "That's not a business we are in or we want to be in." The announcement comes 4 years after India's Supreme Court decriminalized same-gender sex. However, queer couples' access to civil marriage is not as easy as accessing love online. There are 6 active lawsuits in Indian courts filed by couples demanding the right to wed. Politically conservative opponents have condemned the Shadi.com announcement as implicit support for marriage equality, while some LGBTQ activists think it's too implicit. They say that it would mean a lot more if the company not only sold its business services to queer couples, but also vocally supported civil marriage equality.
That's NewsWrap, Global Queer News with Attitude, for the 3 weeks ending January 8th, 2022. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at ThisWayOut.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm John Dyer V. Stay healthy.
And I'm Sarah Montague. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world. And we are also a free online news service.
You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org. please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out.
We'll respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show.
You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture.
Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.